Welcome to EQ Video Tip. I'm your host, Eric Forsetter, and we're glad you're here to join us today. As a reminder, the EQ Video Tip is taking tips from authors, writers, psychologists, and other leading industry experts on EQ. This isn't us preaching to you, this is us bringing you information. Before we get to the content of this week's show, let's take a quick review of the goals of EQ Video Tip. What's on tap for today? We're going to talk about 4 behaviors that toxic leaders tend to display. And this article comes to us from Fast Company by Aytekin Cenk. And what Fast Company tells us is that very few leaders wake up every morning and say, you know what, today I'm going to make the lives of my employees miserable. Who thinks that? Of course not. But we've all experienced a toxic boss at some point. And how did this leader go from these great intentions to all of a sudden draining all the team's morale? What we're going to focus on today is not a witch hunt. We're not looking to go and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Boss, you stink. That's definitely not the point of this episode. The point is to say, how do we ensure that we as ourselves are acting as motivational leaders, and at the same time, we spot a bad boss and help them through that process to ensure that we are getting the best out of everyone on the team. Here are 4 signs that you may be sliding into a toxic behavior. And again, even if you're not leading someone, you are part of a team. So being part of a team, there is an act of leadership within that. And remember, this isn't a witch hunt. This is to help us improve ourselves and our team. The first red flag, people are afraid to speak up. In a healthy work environment, employees are encouraged to use their voices. They're encouraged to disagree and commit. They can offer questions, suggestions, talk candidly about their problems. A glaring red flag, though, will be if employees are quiet during meetings. No one's sharing, no one's talking, no one's challenging ideas. And according to the Harvard Business Review, this comes from the team culture, but it always starts at the top. And as an example, if an employee's idea is dismissed quickly by leadership, it discourages other employees from actually doing the same thing as well. If you think about it, it's important that everyone has the ability to share their voices and their opinions because it encourages a culture of innovation as well. How can we get around this? As a leader or as someone on the team, encourage people to hand over the mic. Give someone a chance to speak their ideas and their opinions, because whether it's face-to-face or even on a Zoom meeting, you want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak and that they're both able to talk, and more importantly, people listen to them. The next red flag, your team doesn't trust you. And this conference call, and people are talking enthusiastically about their day and their lives, and all of a sudden they stop talking and don't include you in the conversation, it's a clear sign something is off. What are the factors in this distrust? For one, it's a lack of interest by that leader in those people and their employees. We want to show human trust, and we want to show an appreciation of their lives by showing curiosity about what they do both at work and outside of work. Very important for anyone that you work with. You also have to be able to own up to your mistakes. Think about this. We're all human, so it's important that we own up to our mistakes and we embody a value that exposes our mistakes, our flaws, and talks about how we're going to be better as human beings, as employees, and as people all around. It's important to be authentic in the practice of the behaviors you do. It's not only just talking about it, but actually walking the walk. So make sure you earn some trust with your teammates to become a solid leader. The next red flag, and we've all had one of these, your behavior is killing motivation, and it's typical for micromanagers. Micromanagers are not necessarily bad human beings, they just think they are more efficient and they can help people manage their time better than the actual individual. But guess what? When you micromanage, you're actually doing the opposite. And I'm sure there are people out there saying, well, this is all well and good, but I know how to do this better and I can change people for the better. Or how do I change my own ways because I'm just so into micromanaging, or I need to be in the weeds and into the details. There's a few ways you can do this. Some of the lessons that were learned by the author of this article include by stepping back gradually. And it's critical as a leader to embrace and trust your employees rather than unnecessarily trying to oversee everything they do and every move that happens. We know it feels scary. And of course, as a micromanager, you're probably a perfectionist. You want to have it exactly right. But keeping close tabs on a team only derails them, and it demotivates them and derails their confidence. So instead, try to allow them to bring to you things and let them participate in a kind of behavior that gives them the opportunity to both earn your trust as well as show confidence in their ability to work. It'll be scary for you and probably scary for them, but the end result will earn more trust and kill that micromanagement behavior. Red flag, and probably the most important, bad leaders don't listen. And it goes without saying you don't want to be that person. One of the biggest things toxic leaders have in common is they simply don't listen. They love the sound of their own voices, or they don't know when to stop. It's cringeworthy at times. Leaders who understand and listen to their people form better connections with them and grow trust or earn trust with them as well. They develop a more engaged workforce, and that's really important, and they don't lose the invaluable insight that their team has to offer. Listening is a hard skill. We all need to practice it. Whether you're an individual contributor or a leader of the whole company or part of the company, it involves complete attention without interruption to someone. And most importantly, it involves patience and the desire to understand what that person is talking about and their point of view. In other words, you have to take that ego and put it aside and encourage team members to become more invested in the conversation. And that goes without saying, whether you're an individual person or a leader of a team or a leader of a bigger team within the company. It's important to invest your time in listening to people, and that will help prevent that toxic leadership culture. That concludes this week's EQ video tip. I want everyone to remember, these tips are here to point out flaws in leadership, but not to go on a witch hunt. It's to help you improve yourself both as a leader, whether you're leading people or you're an individual contributor to a group of people. You can still be a leader. And it's important to help your team navigate through this because we're all human and it's not something that innately happens within people. Make sure you take a look at these tips that we put out there as ways that will help you improve your leadership skills. So that concludes our EQ video tip for today. Try incorporating some of these tips into your daily routine. But remember, use what works best for you and personalize it for yourself. Thank you always to our great research team for providing us with some great tips today. As always on EQ video tip, we want to end with gratitude. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Here are some resources that you can use if you want more information on EQ going forward. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.